Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I'll be evaluating Patriot Accounting software for Chapter 2 of the Fit Small Business case study, which deals with accounts payable. So I'm in my Patriot software free trial subscription. I'm on my dashboard right now. So our first task dealing with accounts payable is to record a utility bill from New York City Electric Company, but let's not pay the bill yet. So let's go into our accounting tab, and we're going to deal with payables this chapter. So this section here. Okay, so first let's set up a vendor. So let's go to our what I would call our vendors center, and it's going to list all of our vendors. We don't have any yet. We can actually import our vendors, but we're just going to add it by hand. And this is New York City Electric Company. We can set up a default expense account. I would assume they have something like utilities. Okay, yep, they have utilities already set up. Default departments, remember we have 3 departments: HVAC, plumbing, and administrative. The default here will be administrative. I'm assuming that we're going to be able to change these defaults when we actually record the expense. So very handy here, create a 1099. So we don't want to do that for New York City Electric Company, but if this vendor is an independent contractor that's a freelancer or self-employed, then we need to issue them a 1099 for all of the money that we pay them during the year. So if you need to create a 1099, check that box. The program is going to track all your 1099 payments for you. Okay, so it looks like you can enter an address. I'd obviously do that if this were real life, but I don't need to for this case study. Good. Looks very good. Let's just save it. Okay, there is our vendor information for New York City. Now, let's go in and let's create a bill from them. So we're going to go into here. Now, if we're going to pay the bill immediately, we'd go to enter and pay bills. But we're going to enter the bills, but we don't want to pay it right away. So we're going to go to enter bills. Okay. Oh no, this might be telling us we need to have a credit card in order to use this feature. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and sign up, give them my credit card information so that I can continue on with this case study. So I'm going to pause. Okay, so I'm back. I've given them a credit card information. However, it is still a free trial. I just need to make sure that I cancel prior to the end of that trial subscription, and I shouldn't get billed. But we did need to do that in order to be able to evaluate the bill payments and the invoicing features. Okay, so back to our case study here. We're entering a bill from the New York City Electric Company. This is going to be the bill number that's on the bill they gave me, so I'll just make up something. And we'll just use today's date. Now the due date, let's put it in the future. Now that would be actually a nice feature if you could enter like net 20 or something like that, net 30, and it automatically calculate the due date, because a lot of times your invoices won't list the due date. It'll just have a payment term like net 30. Okay, so our account showed up automatically as utilities. Because we didn't have the 1099 box checked in the vendor, it comes up as a non-1099 payment. The default department we set up was administrative, so everything looks really, really good, and we're just going to record this $150 bill. Down here we can attach files, so oftentimes you would use that to attach you would attach a receipt of the bill to this. Okay, so hit Save Bill. And there we go. Okay. Easy enough. Moving on. So record a recurring monthly expense of $150 for telephone service. Okay, let's go to our accounting, and okay, I don't see anything specifically about recurring items here. Let's edit the bill we have to see if somewhere within that screen you could tell it that you want it to be recurring. Looking for any sort of options. No, I don't see any sort of options, so we're not going to change anything there. So it's possible that the program just doesn't have recurring expenses. So let me do just a little bit of research. So I don't find anything about recurring expenses for Patriot, so I do not believe you can enter recurring expenses. Okay, good. So let's quickly grade Patriot here for our Chapter 2. So creating a vendor was very easy. We can record an expense without paying it. We can record the due date, and we can attach a copy of that receipt. Can I send a copy through the app? I don't know that yet. We'll have to do that when we evaluate the app. Now, if you do attach the receipt, it's not going to create a transaction for you. It's not going to read the receipt. It's just merely attaching a file. Can you create a recurring expense? We cannot. Okay, very good. So let's move on in our case study. Okay, next we're going to look at inventory accounting. Now I already know, because this does not have an inventory account in the chart of accounts, at least as a type of account, that it's not going to automatically calculate our cost of goods sold. So this is not going to be good for inventory, but let's see if it has anything that might be useful. So we want to set up an inventory item for plumbing widgets where we purchase the plumbing widget for $10 and we sell the plumbing widget for $25. So products and services is under customers, is under receivables here. So let's go into there and let's add a new product or service, and we're adding a product called plumbing widgets. Okay, default price is because this is in the receivables module here, I'm guessing default price means what do we sell it for, and we're going to sell it for $25 per unit each. Okay, and what income account do we want to use? We want to use the product sales account would be fine. Okay, it is a product, is going to be subject to sales tax, and so we're going to go ahead and keep that box checked. We're going to worry about sales tax in our next chapter, which deals with the accounts receivable. So let's set up our plumbing widgets. Okay, so now we have a plumbing widgets set up. Okay, so let's see if we can use, I don't think we'll even be able to use that plumbing widgets in our bill payment because it didn't ask which expense account to use when we purchased them. But let's go ahead and let's record the purchase of 100. Actually, we want to do a purchase order if we can. So it doesn't look like the payables account, the payables accounting here, the vendor accounting does not allow you to make a purchase order, which is fine because again, this software is really not designed for inventory accounting. But let's enter the bill. Actually, we're not going to enter the bill because we're supposed to be entering a purchase order right now. Well, we can't do a purchase order, so we're going to have to skip this step. The next step is that we receive 100 widgets for $10 per unit. So let's go ahead and record that bill. So we're going to record it from a new vendor. So we can just add a vendor right here. Click add a vendor. It brings up, looks like the same basic information as in the other vendor screen we looked at. So this is going to be a vendor called the widgets guy. And when we buy something from the widgets guy, we're going to want to put that to our cost of goods sold account. Now, a good inventory software, I would put purchases from the widgets guy into our inventory account, which is the asset account, and then when we sell it, the program would allocate the cost between inventory and cost of goods sold. But our program doesn't do that, so we're just going to have to book it to one or the other. And in fact, instead of cost of goods sold, I'm going to stick it in inventory. But then we're going to have to make manual entries. Every time we sell a piece of inventory, we're going to have to make manual entries that transfer the cost from inventory to cost of goods sold. So again, if you have much inventory at all, this is not the software for you. You need software that has inventory accounting. Good examples, QuickBooks Online Plus, Xero has a good one, and Zoho Books. Okay, so this is going to be in our plumbing class, is the default department. Okay, and I don't know, it looks like this is required. Okay, and so we don't want a 1099. Okay, and let's save. Oh, well, now it's saying it's, oh, okay. It was only required. This is no longer, it was only required when we were issuing a 1099. That makes sense because you're going to need to know the address for the 1099. Okay. Now we can save it. Okay, so we got our vendor set up. Now we're going to enter the bill. So whatever the bill number from the vendor is, statement date, due date, let's set for next week. Okay. Description. I'm not going to put a description in there. It's kind of self-explanatory. So inventory, the plumbing, and we're going to buy plumbing widgets. Actually, I guess we'll put plumbing widget. Since we can't use the item we set up, we're just going to have to put it in as a description. Okay, and the amount is 100 widgets for $10 per unit, and so that is $1,000. Okay, excellent, and let's hit save bill. Okay. Okay, so we can't view inventory units or anything like that because this is not inventory software. Now we receive the remaining 50 widgets at $11 per unit. We're not going to worry about entering that. It would be exactly the same kind of transaction we just did. Really no point. Okay, so let's go to our scorecard here. So create an inventory item. I'm gonna give them a half a point for this because we were able to create an item for plumbing widgets, and we can use it on our invoices that we're going to issue, but we're not able to use it on our bill. So it's only half useful. So I'm just going to give them a half a point for that. Okay, recording a purchase order. No, we can't do that. We can't convert purchase orders to bill. We did create a bill for the purchase of the inventory. We can't view inventory available. We can't view inventory on purchase order. We can't view the cost. We can't view the total unit. So again, Patriot really just doesn't do any inventory accounting. Okay, moving on in our case study. So we want to record expenses for a project, a bathroom renovation for a customer, family bowling. So the question is, can we create job accounting in Patriot? Can we account for separate jobs? I have not seen anything like that. But let's go into customers and let's add a new customer, and that might give us a place to do jobs for that customer. So this customer's name is going to be Family Bowling. Okay, and so here we can't do payment terms on bills we receive, but it looks like we can do payment terms on invoices we send out. So we'll set net 30 and let's save. Okay, now is there anywhere here that we can add kind of jobs for this customer if we want to track jobs separately? Not that I see. So let me do a little bit of research and see if I can find some sort of job or project accounting. Okay, done a little research. Does not appear there is any sort of project or job accounting in Patriot Accounting. So you can't track income and expenses by particular jobs. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's record the expenses for this bathroom renovation, even though we're not going to be able to assign them to projects. So let's go to Enter Bills. Have we saved this? Let's make sure we save the customer. Okay, and let's enter bills. And so we are going to pay a gentleman named Hank Independent. He's going to be an independent contractor. Okay, and we'll put the cost of his labor to, do we have a labor? We'll put it to cost of goods. Well, we'll just put it to cost of goods sold. Okay, and he generally works for the plumbing department. Okay, now here he's an independent contractor, so we are going to have to create a 1099 for him. So we want to keep that checked, and we're just going to say his name is Hank Independent. Okay, and let's make up an address for him. This is required because we're going to have to send him a 1099, so we're going to need an address for that. Okay, and we're going to send him a 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation, and he's going to be an individual sole proprietor. So important you get that information set up correctly. Ask your tax guy if you have any questions on it. And we're going to say he gave us a employer identification number. It's not required. Eventually we're going to have to fill that out before we can issue him a 1099, but not right now. Okay, so that gives us Hank Independent. Received a bill from him. Actually, I think we want to pay him directly instead of doing a bill. So let's cancel out. Instead of doing a bill, let's go over here and let's do enter and pay bills all at one time. Okay, so let's enter and pay bills. So this is instead of entering a bill and then paying it later. So we're going to issue him a check today. Okay, we'll say he gave us invoice number 100. They call them statements. It could be either a statement or an invoice. All of this stuff filled out automatically. We are paying him $30 an hour for 40 hours. That is $1,200. Okay, good. So we could add additional payments here, but we don't want to, so let's go to next step. Approve payments, where you look it over here, we're going to approve it. And here we can actually print checks. So let's just go ahead and take a look at what it looks like. Let's print the check now. Look at what check we're sticking in our printer. We'll say we're sticking in check 100. And I'm a little confused by the terminology here. I guess download check stubs now. I guess these would be the whole checks. Well, when does it print the actual check? So this is the check stub, but doesn't it print the actual check? So this would be at yeah. Okay, let's go back here. No. What am I missing here? Why won't it let me print this? I wonder if I have to turn it on or something. Okay, you know what? Let's just say I'm going to finish it later. We'll look at that a little later. Actually, no, I want to say I'll print later. Okay. Good. Let's go down here to print vendor checks and see if this brings us up any kind of different screen. Okay, well, this says we previously printed it. Print check 100. You know what? I'm going to say that this actually does not print checks. I think it just provides you check stubs. I don't think it actually prints the check. Let me do a little bit of research. Okay, I'm back. So we need to do a little bit of setting things up before we're able to print checks. So let's go to our settings. And here we have vendor check print layout. So right now we just have check stub only. So if you handwrite checks, this would actually be a really nice option. At least you could print the information about the check and then just handwrite the check itself. But let's select check on top. Okay, now let's save this. Okay, and then we're going to go to our print checks. Print. Download checks now. Now this, there we go. This has the check itself. This is the check up top that prints on your check stock, and then here's the pay stub. Perfect. Okay, so we can in fact print checks from Patriot software. Very good. So we printed this check to pay Hank the $1,200. Okay, now let's do one other thing. Let's pay a $200 permit fee for this same project. So, and we'll take a little bit more time to look at the bill. So actually, let's do this one as a bill rather than paying it immediately. So this is going to be to a new vendor, New York City permits. I'm just going to call it New York City. Default expense account is going to be cost of goods sold for plumbing. Okay, no 1099 needed, so that should be all the information we need. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is there somewhere here that we can assign this expense to one of our customers, because I would like to, so this is a permit for, this payment is for a permit for family bowling for the bathroom renovation. Okay, so I want to pass this expense on to family bowling, but it looks like I'm just going to have to do this manually. Maybe keep a spreadsheet or something so that I remember to bill them for this $200 permit, because I don't see anything here where I can actually say this expense is for family bowling, so that when I go to make an invoice for family bowling, it reminds me to add this expense. That is an option available in some software. Unfortunately, not this software. Okay, so nowhere to assign this to family bowling. Okay, so let's do a little bit of scoring here. So create a project. Unfortunately, we were not able to create a project. We were able to create an independent contractor, which was Hank dependent, and have the software track payments to him so we can do his 1099. We did not create a service item. We could have if we wanted to. Actually, no. So again, I'm going to do half a point for this. So we can create items, but we can't use those items in our bills. We can only use those items in our invoices. So the default cost, we can't set that up. We can set up the sales price of the service item. So let's go back and do this. We didn't kind of do this in the right order, but let's set up a service item for that permit fee. Actually, no, for the service item for the contract labor. So let's go to products and services. We're going to add a new service for contract labor. Okay, and this is Hank Independence labor. Now we're going to charge the customer $80 an hour. We pay Hank $30, we charge the customer $80. Okay, so not subject to sales tax. and we want it in our product sales because we'll put it in service, whatever. Okay, good. So again, this is great information. We can use it on our invoices, but this doesn't help us fill out our bills. So it would be nice if under contract labor we have a default sales price and a default cost, and then we could use those in both our invoices and our bills. But this product and service is purely for our invoices. So going back to our scorecard, pay the independent contractor using the service item. No, we can't use it in bills, only in invoices. Designate the payment as billable to a customer. That's what we talked about with the permit fees. We're not able to assign that expense to family bowling. Designate it as billable to a particular project. Well, we can't even designate it as billable to a customer, let alone a project. View expenses incurred but not yet billed. Nope, as we've been saying, we can't track billable expenses. Okay, now we want to view our unpaid bills. So let's go to our bill center. I say if we want to view our unpaid bills, let's go into into the pay bills feature. And there we go. We can view all of our unpaid bills. Okay, view a list of vendors. We can certainly do that under that vendors tab we visited before. View unpaid bills summarized by vendor. Here it looks like we could actually sort by vendor. I suppose that could be viewed by vendor, although I would much rather them be grouped together by vendor with some subtotals. Now here we can actually select which vendors we want to view, so that would be viewing them by vendor. Okay, the other information I would like, let's look in the vendors tab here. So here we can view all of our vendors, and if we click on them, can we see transactions for them? Here's our setup information. And here we can see payments to the vendor. Can we see in a 1099, but we cannot see like unpaid bills to the vendor. So the only place we can see unpaid bills is in the pay bill screen, and then we can actually search by vendor. Okay, and that's fine. View a list of transactions by vendor. We're not able to do it in that vendor screen. That's what I was just checking for. All it shows is payments, not all transactions. But what about reports? Let's go to reports. Is there a transaction by vendor report? We have an accounts payable aging, bills, and vendor payment history. So I'm going to say no. We cannot do a report that has all of the transactions. So we can run reports for each separate type of transaction to vendors, but I would like a report with all of the transactions. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give it half a point because you can see everything in separate reports, but I would prefer it to be one report. Okay, can you record an e-payment of a bill? That essentially means can you pay a bill without actually printing a check? We certainly can. Can we print the check from the program? Yes. Can we record the check number? So if we do a handwritten check, we can do just bill stub, and that will record the check number in the register. Okay, and now back to our case study. So let's talk about credits to vendors. Okay, so we want to pay part of the check to the widgets guy. Okay, so let's look at our unpaid checks for the widgets guy. Okay, so we got to go back up here to accounting, pay bills. Here we owe the widgets guy $1,000. So let's go in and see if we can make a partial payment, or what a lot of times is called the short payment. Okay, so let's make a partial payment of $800. So we'll make the check date today. Okay, we can check all the bills we want to pay, and then we're going to hit continue. Okay. Well, this is problematic. We cannot make a short payment of the bill. We have to pay the entire amount or nothing. So what that means is that we would have to go back and change the original bill. Would be the only way we could actually make a short payment. Right? So we'd have to go back and basically split this $1,000 bill into a $800 bill that we then pay and a $200 bill that we're not going to pay. Well, that is not at all convenient. So it does not accept partial payments of your bills, and so that is not great. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out of this. Okay, so we can't do partial payments. Just about done with this chapter. Now, let's say we return one plumbing widget to the widgets guy for $10. We want to see if we can do a credit from our vendor. So here we have credits, but I'm sure these are just credits that we give to our customer. Okay, so if we add new credit, I'm sure this is just for customers. Yeah, this is customers. That's not what we're looking for. So back to accounting. Sometimes, some programs, when you enter a bill, it gives you the option to make it a credit. No, I don't see anywhere to change this from a bill to a credit. So we cannot enter that $11 credit from the widgets guy. So again, about the only way we're going to be able to record that $11 is just to manually. So let's go into pay bills so we can see a list of our unpaid bills. We'd have to go in and we just have to manually decrease the amount we owe widgets guy by the amount of the credit. And that's not a great system because you're going to lose track of what happened. When you look back, you're not going to see there was a $12 credit. With a good accounting program that can track credits, when you're talking to the vendor, you can look at all the activity and you can say, oh, well, you gave me a vendor credit on a certain date for $12 or whatever. When you have to go back and change the original bill, you're not going to have that paper trail and it's going to make things harder. Okay, so we cannot do a credit. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish scoring. Record a credit from a vendor, we cannot do that. Decrease inventory, no, we can't do anything with inventory. We can't do anything with credits. We cannot short pay or partial pay an invoice. Subjective ease of use, I tell you what, I'm going to give it a really high score. I really like how things are laid out. It's very easy to use. It all kind of makes sense. Part of that might be because it is missing a lot of your advanced features. But the features that it is very easy to use. And so I'm going to give it 0.9 out of 1. So very high praise for its subjective ease of use. Okay, and that is Chapter 2 of Patriot Software. I am Tim Yoder with the Fit Small Business Case Study.